Hey, welcome back to the channel. In the comments to one of my earlier videos, one of you had asked about this two-post lift, which I use to work on cars. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a rundown on what it is and how I use it today. It's a two-post automotive lift. It's hydraulic. It uses hydraulic rams in each cylinder. It's supplied by an outfit here in Calgary called Lift King. Their website is liftking.ca. But I'm pretty sure that this Chinese-made lift can be bought under different names from different places throughout the US and Canada. The one that I have was rated 6,600 pounds lifting capacity. I was just on their website, and their current model they say is rated 6,000 pounds. It's right in there somewhere, so it's enough. It's enough to lift a Mustang, pretty well any car, minivan, light trucks, and so on. It's really not enough for a diesel pickup or something heavier. It uses a portable power pack in the back, which I'll go over. That runs on 120 volts AC, so it just plugs into any standard electrical outlet that you have in your garage or home. The power pack is on wheels, so that can be wheeled out of the way. And one of the key features of this little lift is the posts themselves are on wheels, and it's mounted to the floor with flush mount anchors. So you can unbolt it from the floor, wheel the posts out of the way, and it's like it was never there. So I'm going to talk about how it's anchored. Each one of the posts is anchored using 6 concrete anchors. The lift came with these Chinese-made metric anchors. I'm just going to show them up a little bit closer. They use a nut in the bottom, and they use a very light grade 4.8 bolt, and you drill a hole in the floor with a concrete drill. You shove the anchor in until it's flush to the concrete, and as you tighten the bolt down, it sucks the nut up. It snaps this little wire or stretches it, and it expands these little prongs, and that's what holds it in place. Now, I didn't very much care for these anchors. They look cheap, and it also looked like what was probably going to happen was the minute you unbolted it to move it out of the way, which is a key feature of this lift, that this nut was going to fall into the concrete hole and disappear forever, and you weren't going to be able to re-anchor it. So I called up my favorite concrete guy and got him to have a look at the situation. And he got me these Hilti anchors. So they look like they're shorter, they look like they're less heavy duty, but he assures me, and I'm going to assure you, this is a way more solid way to do this. It's still a flush mount anchor. This uses a high grade Imperial bolt. It's an Imperial 5/8 concrete anchor. And inside, when it's shipped, there's a little plug there. When you tighten this thing down, it forces this slug inside down to the bottom and expands these much heavier duty arms into the concrete to hold it in place. And the threading, instead of being in a nut at the bottom of the anchor, is right in the end of the anchor. So the anchor isn't going to disappear into the floor, and the nut isn't going to disappear into the floor. So when you unbolt it, you're going to be able to bolt it back up the same way that it was bolted in the first place. So each one of the posts use 6 of these 5/8 flush mount concrete anchors. Then when you take the bolts out, you can move the posts out of the way, and you have a completely flat floor with no studs sticking out of it that you can drive over. You can set anything else up on it, whatever you want. So that's a big plus for something like this, and it's the kind of thing that could be very helpful for home guys who are using this in a garage and may need to reconfigure their limited garage space from time to time. So let's take a little closer look at the lift. It lifts up, total height is supposed to be 61 inches, about 5 feet. It's may not look like it, but it's actually an asymmetric lift. So the front and back arms are slightly different lengths. So there is a right way to load the car and a wrong way. Maybe you can even see it in this picture, but in this case, the arm on the right is the short arm and the arm on the left is the long arm. The lift came with lifting pads, and it came with a couple different spacers. So you got a short spacer and you got a long spacer for each of the 4 positions, as well as the lifting pad. So it's reasonably versatile. I'd say if you have a super low car, like some of the Corvettes, you may have trouble getting this lift underneath. And I can lift my street rod, which is super low with it, but you have to be extra special careful, and there's only about one place that it will do it. This is the power unit over here. It just plugs into a 110 outlet. It uses Pioneer hydraulic fittings, quick couple fittings. So you can just, I don't know if I can do this with one hand, disconnect it like that. That makes it real easy, in this case, for instance, to move the power unit out of the way so that I can drive cars through the lift and into the back of the shop. Most agricultural hydraulic systems use fittings like this these days. The power unit consists of a motor, pump, and tank. Like I said, you plug it in with 110 power, and then you press the button. And up it goes. That makes an audible click on the locks. And you can hear it's going up together, but it locks slightly off. But you'll hear the 2 clicks. Then you can set it down on the locks and the car's safed up. Now, to unlock it, all you're going to do is come over here, press the button, put just a little lift on it, and then come to each side. You have to remember, you have to do this on each side. Pull the unlock cable. There's one on each side like that. Then when you come back to the power unit, press in the lever and it's going to lower the hoist. Now, it lowers a little quicker if there is a car on it, but it's kind of slow without a car. The hoist actually has like a drain back restrictor in there, which reduces the speed that the oil comes out of it. So if you have like a hose failure, it goes down at a more steady rate instead of just collapsing. So that's a little safety mechanism that's on it. Take a quick look at the posts here. You can see the concrete anchor assembly. Here it uses those 5/8 imperial bolts. There's 6 of these in a horseshoe shape around the post. The post has little wheels, so when you unbolt these, you can just tilt the whole thing back and wheel it out of the way. The arms are attached with a quick release pin, so you can just take that out, take the arm right off. That way you can change the direction of the arms so that you make the hoist set up either for back in or drive in. They swing, of course, and they use this gear latch to hold the swing position when you're working on it so that it doesn't suddenly swing out of the way. And the arms are extendable like that. So you get quite a bit of extension on them. It makes it relatively versatile. Lift height is 61 inches, but the posts are not much taller than that. So if you have a application with a low ceiling, this is a particularly useful setup. Lots of garages have a low ceiling. They just have 110 power and they need to be reconfigured from time to time. It's easy to put a lift like this in there. It doesn't have a piece that goes across the top to attach them. It doesn't have a piece on the floor to attach them. In this shop, sometimes I need to be able to bring a car through here and into the showroom or in beside the dyno to get it out of the way. That's one of the things that's really nice about this portable power pack. I can simply disconnect the hose. Then I normally take and drape that hose over the post. And pull it back so it's out of the way. You roll your power pack up against the wall. If you don't have 100 other things in the way, just like that. You can rejig the hose and extension cable a little bit, and then you got a completely clear pathway through here, no problem. So what about criticisms of it? Well, it's not a very heavy duty lift, so you can't lift heavy trucks and so on, but it's certainly good enough for cars, light trucks, minivans, that kind of thing. It lifts about 5 feet off the ground, which is good, but it really isn't high enough for me to use my transmission jack, for instance, underneath it. And I'm a pretty big guy, so I find that it can be a little bit cramped working underneath it. But what I have taken to doing is I have a little roll around cart, you know, that you can sit on. And I sit down on a roller cart underneath the car when it's on the lift. And that puts me at about a comfortable height to work on things underneath the car without straining my back. The hoses and fittings can be a little bit of a problem. There's some funny Chinese type stuff on here which isn't that easy to get, and I know I had a problem with some fittings that were missing or something, and when I went back to Lift King to try and get these parts they weren't available, and I tried a couple of places here in Calgary that make up fittings and hoses, which, you know, there's some serious professional places that do that here. One of them laughed at me, and one of them took pity on me and put this Chinese fitting in a lathe and machined it so it would work with an American fitting. I don't remember all the details, but I think the taper was off, and anyway, they machined it to work with a standard JIC fitting or something like that. I guess it's quite a few years ago now, so I don't remember all the details, but it was a little bit of a problem, and I suspect that when you buy one of these Chinese lifts, probably even one of the 4 posts or whatever, you better have a little time, energy, and financial budget to deal with hoses and fittings that don't work right. Outside of that, once those setup and teething problems were solved, and I used concrete anchors that I like better and my concrete guy likes better, the thing's been a very reliable and useful item. I hope this overview of the lift has been helpful, and if you have a limited ceiling height, modest lifting requirements, and you need something versatile that you can move in and out, this kind of a lift could be a real good choice for you. Hey, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, hit that notification bell so that you won't miss out on future videos.